What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snelling. Welcome to the Rewatch Ryan YouTube channel or the Watch Diary podcast. However you're taking in this content, I greatly appreciate it. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to review the brand new Predator prequel, Prey. We're going to review Bullet Train, and we're going to rank David Leitch movies. I'm Ryan Snelling. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, at Rewatch Ryan. I'm going to be doing the Bullet Train and the David Leitch convos by myself, but Brando Hall will be joining me later on in this podcast to review Prey, and I'm excited about that. Speaking of Brando, and speaking of you, I just want to tell you how grateful I am, how thankful I am to all of the new subscribers who have come over since we've been talking to RRR on the YouTube channel and the podcast feed. It's been incredible. Those views or those videos have done tremendously well view-wise. I've gotten a lot of subscribers from them, and it means a lot to me. So, thank you for joining me. Hopefully you like everything else I'm doing here. I learned a lot about Tollywood and Bollywood and Indian cinema, and I'm not just saying this. I genuinely have already taken your suggestions and recommendations and worked them into our schedule. In fact, I believe Brando and I are going to be talking about Bahubali, if that's how you pronounce it, part 1 next week, if I remember correctly. It's as soon as next week that we're going to be talking about our next Indian film, and I'm really excited to do that. So again, thank you so much if you're new to viewing this channel or the podcast feed, whatever. I just greatly appreciate it. Thank you for giving me a chance. Earlier today, as a matter of fact, I did my very first live stream as well on the YouTube channel. It's crazy. So if you're just a podcast listener and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Go and subscribe. Make sure you get my notifications too, because only a small fraction of my subscribers get the notifications, the bell. So do that. I am going to be going live, hopefully once a week, for like 30 minutes or so to just talk about movie news and stuff on my days off of work. So it was a lot of fun seeing you guys in the chat. Brody, David, Jaynov, who else was in there? Christos, Jay, of course. I think that's everybody. It was awesome to see you all, and I love you. So anyway, make sure you do that. I also already recorded this podcast. So everything I'm doing right here, right now with you, this is actually my second time. I just didn't feel good about it. I don't know why. I don't know if I don't feel like I was articulate enough. I don't know that I'm ever articulate enough, but you know, I recorded my intro, my David Leitch ranking, and my Bullet Train review already, and something about it didn't feel good. And I was like, you know what? I've got the rest of tonight. I'm going to order my Buffalo Wild Wings because I'm recording this on Thursday, so it's buy one, get one, boneless. I'm going to order me some Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm going to go get some Coke Zero. And I'm just going to do it again. So everything I'm doing right now, I've already done already, but it's all good. Yeah, so it's Thursday night. That's why I don't have cold brew. I've been drinking my mushroom coffee. Another reason why I've had a good week. I've been getting high a lot. A lot of edibles. I think I'm going to test a new one out tonight. I don't know how I feel about it because I usually stick with a hybrid. I don't like to, do anything crazy. I don't like to experiment with edibles. I found one that I like, and I never want to do anything else because I don't know how my body will react. I have a panic disorder, so I don't want to have a panic attack because of weed. I want to enjoy weed because it's something that helps and makes me feel good. So I did accidentally buy the wrong thing though, but I'm going to try it once. And if I don't like it, then I'll get rid of it. But it's not a hybrid. So it's a sativa. It's supposed to not make you sleepy. I like feeling relaxed and sleepy, and I like just laying there. I don't want to do anything while high. Not even like watch TV. I like to get high, and as soon as that high is reached or peaked, I just lay down and I enjoy it for a little while, and it lets me go to sleep, and I love it. I don't know if this is going to make me feel that way because I've never had it before. It might. Maybe I'll find out that all cannabis makes me just tired and and chill. I hope that's the case, but who knows? We'll figure it out together. I'll let you know. I'm sure that the Brando portion of this podcast, because I'm recording that tomorrow, when Brando comes on, I'll talk about my edibles. So just wait a few minutes until that happens. What else is going on? I'm trying to think. This past week, I got a raise at work. And then last week, I got a raise at work. This week, I found out my rent went up. So that's fun. Shout out to inflation and everything else that comes with that. And there's nothing else really to talk about. I saw Bullet Train. It was an early screening. I went with Ernesto, and that was fun. I went on Tuesday. We can get into that already. So let's review Bullet Train. I did an early out of the theater reaction video. It's up on the channel already. So if you are a subscriber, you probably know how I feel about it. But if you're not, you're probably wondering, is it good? Is it worth seeing? Yes, but. There's a but yes, it is worth seeing. So I didn't realize it until I was filming that out of the reaction video in my car. I was like, oh wow, this is really kind of the last shebang here this summer. That's really it. I mean, I guess we got that Idris Elba Beast movie. Next week is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. But I'm talking about like a big event film. Bullet Train, the trailer, it's the trailer I've seen all year. It's probably the most seen trailer of 2022 for me, not including like the Batman, I guess. Like the thing that I saw against my will in theaters the most was the Bullet Train trailer. Now, I'm going to rank David Leitch movies here later on, but my relationship with David Leitch is practically non-existent. I've never felt like he's really found his footing as a director. I'm not really sure what his identity is, other than like being a guy that comes from stunts that can make a cool stunt-centric movie, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of just like, oh, what's he going to do to top himself stunt-wise? But I'm not really sure there's meat on the bone when it comes to his films. I think at the end of the day, the trailer interested me because of the cast of characters and because I wanted to see something like this with Brad Pitt in it. I think that was really it. And I mean, that's what the trailer sells you. That's the bill of goods. We have Brad Pitt doing some shit on a train, and it's supposed to be fun and exciting. Also, train movies have a great track record with me. Unstoppable, I love. Denzel Washington, Chris Pine, that's a sleeper. Snowpiercer, one of my all-time favorite movies. It's a lovely genre, just so much fun. And it felt like I had kind of already figured it out, that I would have fun, but not care too much about it. And I think that on the other side of it, that's a pretty consistent idea. But I will tell you what's good about it, what's not so good about it. It is maybe the most brother movie to John Wick that David Leitch has done since. And I think the things that were attractive to me, but not nearly as well done in John Wick, is that it does plant this like seedy underworld like lore and mythos, and it's kind of the backdrop of this entire thing. And not to spoil anything, but all of the cast of characters kind of have some relationship to this crime boss or this figurehead or whatever that they kind of hint at. And that's kind of what brings all these people together, is their histories, varying histories and relationships to this bad for the most part. And so that's good, but unfortunately it's bogged down because there is a whole hell of a lot of story and a whole hell of a lot of plot because there's so many characters. And I don't know if the movie executed and delivered on that as well as it could have. I think the explanations and the relationship, the way everything tied together, could have been just done in a more cleaner fashion. And it was really hard for me to figure out like which character I'm supposed to care for in a way, because of course I'm attached to Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt was often outshined by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, and they both did a great job. But they weren't the main characters. They were, I guess, like the B characters, the main B characters. And I would get involved with them just for the movie to kind of steer me in a direction like, oh, but we're not doing that anymore. We're going back to Brad Pitt. So I just don't think it juggled the story mechanics and the characters as well as it could have. I thought there were a couple times when they were like pointing at, oh, this character, this is the one you're caring about, and then they would switch it up on you and kind of teach me not to care by giving me another joke or spending 20 minutes away from said character. And so it was really hard to find something to latch onto. It never goes beyond quirky, fun action movie. So it does make it an enjoyable experience, but it wasn't really much more than that. I think at the current moment, the Rotten Tomatoes score is a 55, if I remember correctly. I do think that's low. I think a solid 70% would work. That's actually right in the middle of the tomato meter and the audience score. At the time I'm recording this, it's a 55 tomato meter and audience score is 85. I think 70 honestly is the sweet spot in this case, because it's not amazing and it's not wonderful, but it is just kind of a fun time at the theaters. But yeah, overcrowded story, a little sloppy. It was genuinely funny though. And again, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry, they did a really great job. They stole the movie, as far as I'm concerned. It was genuinely funny. The action was really good. I enjoyed the set pieces a lot. Brad Pitt was a lot of fun to watch. And then, what else? I just thought every actor did a great job in the movie. Like, awesome. I thought they all killed it. Joey King, even Bad Bunny. Look, I went with Ernesto, and Ernesto's a huge Bad Bunny fan. I know nothing about him other than he's like literally the highest selling artist right now, or most popular artist literally in the world right now, internationally. And he was announced as the Sony Spider-Man villain, El Muerto. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even, isn't that just shit in Spanish? I don't know what it's called. But anyway, he's playing the Spider-Man villain, and when he was cast as that, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, do we know if this person can act? He definitely could do what he did in Bullet Train. Like, he sold the action sequences, and he was playing a tough guy, and he furrowed his brow, and he pulled off that character very well. So I was actually surprised that he did such a good job in Bullet Train. I was a little let down that Karen Fukuhara from The Boys, she kind of has one scene, and it's in the trailer, and that's kind of it. I wish she did a little bit more. But anyway, I'm probably forgetting actors, but everybody did a great job, and the action worked, for sure. If we could have just gotten over and smoothed out some of the story wrinkles and, found something to latch onto and care about, I think it would have been even better. But it was enjoyable enough, and it is up there on my David Leitch ranking, but that's another video. That's how I feel about Bullet Train. I do think I would, if you're looking for a fun time at the theater, I would say Bullet Train, but your mileage may vary on it. Ernesto thoroughly enjoyed it. I guess the last thing I'll say is, like, it's reminiscent. It wants to be very cool. It has the glowing title cards and the freeze frames every time a character pops up. It's a Guy Ritchie British gangster film combined with a John Wick movie. Alright guys, it is officially time to rank every David Leitch film. There's 5 of them. Again, we're only talking about movies that he's directed. We're not talking about movies he's done stunt work for. The 5 directed by David Leitch films. Here we go. Let's start with number 5. This is a bad movie and a bad franchise. I'm so sorry to do this to you, Fast and Furious fans, but the worst David Leitch movie by far was Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw. It was a pain to watch in the theaters. I was hoping that I could get something good out of this, because I was already tired of the franchise in general that it came off of, but maybe, just maybe, this is the jolt of life it needed. Unfortunately, it is not. It is still Fast and Furious. It is stupid. It is bombastic. I don't actually care about anything that's going on. And I just didn't even think it looked that great. I don't like the Rock movies. It just was a recipe that Ryan Snelling wasn't going to ever like, unfortunately. So I don't like it. The only good thing is it gave me a little bit more of Vanessa Kirby, who I've grown to love a lot, and Isaac Gonzalez, who's one of my favorite looking people on the planet. And they didn't give her nearly enough to do. And that's one thing that Bullet Train was missing, was Aiza Gonzalez. So I don't pronounce her name right at all, but she was needed more in Hobbs and Shaw, and she was absolutely needed in Bullet Train. But Hobbs and Shaw, I think, is very bad. I never want to watch it again, and I never want to see a sequel. So that's probably what made my hype for Bullet Train extend so much, because of how much I didn't like Hobbs and Shaw. And we'll get to another movie that didn't help Bullet Train, but we'll get there. My number 4 favorite David Leitch film, and it's kind of hard to say favorite because I don't really like this movie either. I watched it for the very first time in preparation for this list. It's Atomic Blonde, unfortunately. And this is the movie that I wanted to love the most, and it's the movie that I thought I would love the most. I always have heard that it's meddling reviews, mixed reviews from people. They either really enjoy it or they really didn't find that much attraction. I thought it was going to be, honestly, my gateway into David Leitch. And unfortunately, it is very dull. And again, I have a hard time caring in any David Leitch film. And he always has tremendous star power, movie stars at his disposal. But Charlize Theron, she kicks ass, and it was a lot of fun to watch her kick ass. But the character she's playing is nothing. And it's almost, again, another movie that's kind of stylistically confused a little bit. It had, again, the glowing title cards, the name title cards when a character would pop up, or actually more so in this movie, it was locales. And it was almost like a movie that they intended to film deathly serious, but they kind of like packaged it with flair. And it was very odd. I couldn't quite figure out what its personality was, what its tone was. But yes, there were definitely fight scenes that were fun to watch. The staircase or the stairwell sequence has been referenced to me several times, and it was very enjoyable. But I didn't care about the characters or the story. It was kind of dull at times, and it really only felt alive during the love scene between Charlize Theron and Sofia Boutella. That's kind of it. Just kidding. Not even that. I mean, I unfortunately did not like this movie. I was really bummed out. I think there's a sequel in the works. I'm open to it, but David Leitch, I just don't think he has ever... He has a hard time connecting with me, and I don't think he's found out who he is as a director yet, unfortunately. My number 3 film, I am not passionate about either. In fact, as time goes on, I like it less and less, and the only reason why it's my number 3 is Ryan Reynolds. If you asked me on any given day, what would you rather watch between Atomic Blonde or Deadpool 2, Ryan Reynolds is going to be the only reason why I picked Deadpool 2 over Atomic Blonde. Otherwise, I have a very similar feelings or relationship with both. I just don't think it's a good sequel. It's kind of boring at parts. I don't think it's a great whole. There are some sequences that I love so much. I mean, I love the X-Force dying. I like bits of this movie, and that's more than I can say about the previous 2. But I just don't like it as a whole, and I don't really enjoy anything else other than Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I mean, that's kind of it. So I'm glad David Leitch is not returning for the sequel, because again, I think they just need a better director. And so I'm glad it's Sean Levy. And Deadpool 2, unfortunately, it's not one of my favorite comic book movies. It's just not. My number 2 movie, and you just heard me review it. I have some issues, but Bullet Train, I think, is for sure 100% David Leitch's best movie, because it is the most entertaining while also has the best action. Oh, by the way, the visual effects are stunning. All the technical things outside of just the screenplay and the story are there. I just wish we ironed out some of those story wrinkles and made it a little bit more cohesive. But other than that, Bullet Train is fun. And it does borrow elements from David Leitch's best film. Now, I feel like I'm being hard on David Leitch, but unfortunately, his best movie is the movie that he co-directed with Chad Stahelski, and that is John Wick. Now, John Wick has become a huge franchise out of nowhere, and I think it's done a better job, of course, at creating a sense of like legacy and greatness in the modern age and our modern days of cinema. And I've always remembered it as a movie directed by Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. But when I looked up on IMDb, it said that David Leitch was uncredited. So I don't remember, that might be true, but I don't remember how that got lost in translation, because I've always known it was directed by both, and Chad Stahelski did 2 and 3 and 4, and David Leitch went off to do Atomic Blonde and everything else that he's done. But even though Chad Stahelski has only done John Wick films up until this point, I do think he is the better director. And what he's been able to do with John Wick has been tremendous. And David Leitch, I feel like, and I respect that he went off and did his own thing. I really do respect it. He's trying to find out who he is as his own director, and I appreciate that 100%. I just have not connected with it. So John Wick is obviously the movie that has a ton of greatness and legacy, and spawned 3 sequels, almost 4 sequels at this point, and it revitalized Keanu Reeves. There was almost a Continental spinoff. Like, they were doing a lot with John Wick, which could have easily just been a straight-to-DVD movie. In a way, it kind of was. But that's the reason that we're all here talking about David Leitch, and it all goes back to John Wick. And the things that I said that Bullet Train borrowed from, the mythology and the mythos and the lore behind the crime bosses and the Continental and all that cool stuff in John Wick, I just think puts it up on a different tier of movie. And he got it right there, and he hasn't really been able to replicate that success since. I know that he makes box office dollars with Fast and Furious and Deadpool 2. You know, Deadpool 2 in a way, I understand the legacy and greatness, but I honestly think he didn't do enough on his own. And I don't even think that movie looks that good either. I'm not really a fan of the coloring. But anyway, I just don't think he did enough, and John Wick is still his best movie and franchise, unfortunately. So that is David Leitch ranked. You can find all of my rankings, every movie ever list, on my Letterboxd. So go to letterboxd.com/rewatchryan, and don't forget, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at rewatchryan.
You look like a character from the movie, not Fern Gully, but there was another movie about like forest creatures, and they were trying to like fight pollution or something. The Secret of Nymph? I don't know.
What's the character?
I think it's the hedgehog.
I think, I know what you're talking about. Hedgehog from Secrets of the Nymph. Also,
that sounds like a bad adult film.
It does. It's a Nim. Yeah, I called it a nymph. And I look like the hedgehog.
I think that's what's coming to my mind, but I don't know.
You know, we were talking about this at work. We were talking about animals that we looked like, and in my mind, I went to rodent. Like,
yes,
so,
correct.
And I've never thought of myself like that until I had to, think of myself like that. And I was like, wait a minute, it's got to be like a rodent of some kind.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I'd like to welcome Brando Hall to the podcast. Now it's going to be absolute mayhem, and we're talking Prey. And look, I want to start off. We can't ignore the RRR sensation that is. Wait, what? The sensation that is RRR.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, have you thought more about it? Have you rewatched it? Have you shown your wife?
I've not rewatched it or shown my wife. However, I have told friends to watch it, and they've watched it.
Really?
And two of my friends that have watched it came back and said, I don't get it. Like, this is zany. And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
So it was So what does that do? Does that crush your spirit when you like enjoy something so much and then somebody like just sums it up with "I didn't get it"?
My favorite band is Me Without You. No, I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it if I know I'm right.
Yeah.
And I'm right.
I mean, that is always just crushing to me when I'm just like, "Oh, this is so great," and I recommend it to somebody because I want them to feel the way that I feel. So if they feel anything else,
Void of love.
especially I didn't get it or I don't get it, I mean, that is just crushing to me. It makes
Yeah.
me so frustrated. I'm like, what didn't you get? Like, and then they'll like, then the next thing out of their mouth is they describe it the exact same way you do, but they have a different way about it. And they'd be like, I don't know, it just wasn't taken seriously. And then, that's when I want to rip their esophagus out.
Yeah, they're stupid. No, that doesn't cross my mind. I don't feel this. I feel so superior to them in that moment.
Right.
It's like people who put ketchup on hot dogs. Like, you immediately know that you're better than them. Right?
So stupid.
No, it's not. It's real.
This I didn't realize until I got into my adulthood, and I'm not sure why mustard became the primary condiment for a hot dog. It's absurd.
That's right.
And the fact that ketchup on a hot dog, I went my entire life doing it. It's not because it was like a weird thing. People weren't pointing and like, oh, look what little Ryan's doing. He's got a wiener with ketchup on it. Like, that was never happening. It wasn't happening because ketchup on hot dog was normal. And then all of a sudden it wasn't, and it's bullshit. Anyway.
No.
Another thing I want to talk about. The other movie I reviewed on this week's podcast is Bullet Train. The movie that we watched last week was Netflix. We're about to talk about Prey. And I know you don't follow movie news, but there's like a lot of hubbub right now with Warner Brothers and Netflix for completely different reasons. But I just wanted to take a second to actually like celebrate and appreciate the different ways that we can watch film. The Netflix catalog and a lot of other streaming services have great international catalogs, and I wouldn't be able to watch movies from India without a company like Netflix. So that's tremendous. Despite all of Netflix's other flaws, at least we get to celebrate RRR with a ton of people from across the world. Prey,
Yeah.
I don't really know why it didn't get a theatrical release. I guess it might have something to do with how poorly received the last Predator movie was, but regardless, Prey didn't get a theatrical release. It's weird, but it kind of just instantly became one of the best movies you can get on streaming. We'll talk about that soon. And Bullet Train, which was an original movie that capped off the summer with Hollywood stars, and it was fun to watch. So we might not be able to appreciate this moment because the further we get out from COVID, the stars are going to align back to how it should be, but for now, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think so I don't like Hulu typically because of commercials. I'm not paying to get the no commercials because I bundle it with Disney Plus and ESPN.
Yeah.
Or whatever, National Geographic. So, and Spotify. So I don't care. Like, I typically don't, I try not to watch things on Hulu except for we are going through the Golden Girls right now, and that's on Hulu. And so I just put up with it. But I don't know, do you have cable right now?
I don't.
So I watched cable for the first time in forever at my parents' house. How do people put up with it? I do not understand. Like, I get multiple ads in YouTube videos now, and that makes me so angry. But trying to watch normal TV the way it's always been is just unwatchable for me.
I go through moods. For the most part, I agree with you, but every now and then I'll want to subscribe to YouTube TV, and it's the browsing part of it. It's not the commercials. Nobody likes commercials anymore. It's not like I yearn for a time when I could watch commercials. But it's the browsing of it, and it's like...
Sure.
Because it's the answer to, hey, how are we going to avoid opening Netflix and browsing for a title for hours before finding something? Well, you solve it by just having a bunch of channels and networks decide for you, and then you pick from there. So, like, I miss that. I miss that feeling of being surprised of what's on, and just it's also like a different like temperament. Like then it's like, oh, something's just on, but like I'm sure that, like, let's say I have my roommate Ernesto, right? If Ernesto came in from work and saw that I was watching TV, like on YouTube TV or the Hulu Live, whatever it is, I'm sure he would feel like he could sit down and watch it with me more, or feel like I wasn't going to stay there forever. But because I don't have cable and I usually watch movies, there's no sense of like, oh, it's just on. Like, he probably walks in and is like, oh, Ryan's committed himself to 2.5 hours in that spot. I don't get the TV, even though it's not true. But you know what I mean? There's like a vibe to it.
Sure.
Like, I'm turning on a movie. I usually have to open Vudu. Part of me feels like, oh, this is a commitment, instead of just like, oh, I can get up and, not watch this movie whenever I want. It just feels differently.
Sure. I miss the browsing experience just because I would sometimes run into the movies Rumble in the Bronx on TNT or something, or like Shawshank Redemption. Like either of those two movies, if they're on, I'm watching it till it's over, no matter what spot I come in at.
There's also a different sensation when you marathon TV shows on a network and when you binge the exact same show. It's like, I remember I used to have Spike TV on all day because I would just watch episode after episode of Bar Rescue.
Mansers.
Okay. And marathoning Bar Rescue, and just, again, it's like you kind of just have it on, but you're also enjoying it, having the time of your life. It feels differently than when you just start an episode on Bar Rescue. And also, I handle reruns better when it's on cable.
Sure.
Have you noticed that? Like, I don't necessarily want to marathon the same order of episodes, because you're going to get it in chronological order if you binge it on a streaming service. It's not such a time waster to me to see an episode I've already seen if I'm marathoning it on television. But if
like Pawn Stars.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And when there's no continuity that you have to worry about, then just jumble it up and give me. It's like comedians in cars. I don't care if they would just randomize the order and play them back to back to back. I would sit there all day.
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna. Oh, I'm not gonna select the Larry David episode again. But if they were just constantly being fed to you, you'd sit through the Larry David. And that's what's weird, is that experience takes longer because of the commercials.
Yeah.
It would take you longer to get through that said episode. But because you're not committed, then you can still get up and do your homework and then turn your head in 30 minutes when the new episode comes on.
So to me, it's a lot like how Spotify uses playlists now. Like, I never listen to Spotify playlists. Never. Because they don't know what Daddy wants.
Yeah.
And like, if they would do it to where they played like a couple of songs that I really loved and then a podcast that I liked. So I don't like playlists. I don't like cable choosing for me. And so the aux cable broke in my car, or the lightning connector cable. And so I was forced to listen to the radio for a couple of days.
Oh, God.
And I'm back in Kentucky. I haven't listened to the radio in years. And I was listening to 99.7 DJX, which is this, like, pop music.
I feel right at home.
Because there's nothing, unless you can handle modern country or Christian radio. Like, it's the only thing that's there. Because what am I going to listen to? Z-Rock 103? There's no way.
If you had dropped 104.5 The Cat, I would have lost my mind.
So I'm listening, and they just keep playing. You know that Doja Cat, Get Into It, Yeah?
Yeah. And every time I ball,
get into it, yeah. Yeah. So my wife is obsessed with that song.
Ugh.
And they were playing that and Lizzo, It's About Damn Time. Which,
in a minute, yeah.
It's phenomenal. TikTok got that one right. That song is amazing. All this to say is so then I just started turning the radio off because I couldn't take it anymore. And I was just listening to podcasts on my phone on speaker while driving down the road. And I don't have air conditioning right now, so it's just my life sucks.
Yeah, or a webcam.
But that's right, yeah. I went back to Kentucky and went back, 20 years technologically. But I re-listened to, and have you ever listened to the podcast S-Town?
Yeah.
So I re-listened to it, and it is still amazing. Old media, I don't know when that came out, like 2015, 16. So good. And that's it. That's the story.
So how did we get here from you saying I don't have the Hulu without commercials or with whatever it was?
Oh, just because I don't like people choosing for me.
Okay.
I don't like commercials, and I don't like being told what I'm doing. I would much rather. Now, here's what we do. This is a rookie
you don't
move.
like when I tell you what movie we're watching?
No, I love that. That's my favorite. If I'm going to have to do this. I like Lulu and I, before we sit down to eat, because we're normal people and eat in front of the TV. Okay, we don't sit at the table with our kids and ask about their day. We don't care. And so it's like, what crayon did you eat today? So we pick out something before we sit down, because if we don't, our food will get cold while we're trying to find something to watch.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a story. You're welcome.
Wait, is it a story?
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that you sat down? Oh, wait, no, you watched it this morning.
Yeah. I got up.
So that wasn't a story of, I just watched Prey at dinner with Lulu because that's...
No, I took my kid to daycare, babysitter, whatever.
Okay.
And then I came home, and Lulu is sick today, so she's home. And she's like, what do you want to watch? And I was like, well, I have to watch this movie called Prey. You are not going to like it, so you don't have to watch it. Now, this is the story that I think you'll be interested in, because I did not know this was a Predator movie. I had no idea when we first started watching it.
So this reminds me of how Jay Williams watched all of Prometheus without knowing that it was an Alien prequel. You did the exact... Really? And I thought about this last night. I was like, what are the odds that Brando knows what this is?
No clue.
And amazing. Incredible. I love it. So what was your reaction when you saw The Predator for the first time?
So this is what happened. Lulu and I don't know if we hovered over it and it started playing a trailer or we watched the trailer. One of the two. And then I was like, oh, God, this is a Predator movie? Jesus Christ. And I was like... Because once I saw it, I was like, Lulu, this is because I didn't, what I saw was like the scene where the Predator is fighting the bear, and you don't see the Predator at first. You just see like the kind of invisibleness of the Predator. Like, and when I saw that,
invisible scales.
Yeah, I immediately knew it was a Predator movie, and Lulu didn't.
Yeah.
So I was like, babe, this is a Predator movie. And she's like, I don't care. It looks cool. And I was like, no, it's a Predator movie. She's like, I know, like the bear. And I was like, no, like Predator is an alien, like Alien versus Predator. And she goes, oh, God.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was how I found out it was a Predator movie. And from that moment on, I'm expecting nothing, not a dang thing that this movie was going to be good. There was no chance.
And again, to reiterate, you're also watching this at home on Hulu. Like
on Hulu.
It has nothing going for it when you hit play.
That's right.
Okay, so let me tell you how I got into this. So they announced another Predator movie a couple of years ago, and I didn't get it because I don't know if you remember The Predator that came out a couple of years ago. No. Jacob Tremblay was in it. It was Shane Black, the original guy he was in and I believe wrote the original Predator. He wrote and directed Iron Man 3, if that helps you.
Okay.
So Shane Black wrote and directed The Predator a few years ago. It was a box office flop. I have not seen it to this day. I'm not interested in it. I don't care. And apparently it's just, yeah, it's a terrible movie, apparently. So when they announced and greenlit another Predator movie, I was like, why? Because we've, I think, only decided as an audience that we are over Alien and we are over Predator. Like,
Yeah.
but we keep making these movies. So the one thing that got me interested is director Dan Trachtenberg. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
I think I know his daughter, Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle Trachtenberg. Wasn't she like Harriet the Spy? Isn't that who that is?
Yes. So Dan Trachtenberg is the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Really?
Yes. And that was my only in. It's the only thing I cared about. I was like, I am in for Dan Trachtenberg. Because even before that, he directed a very popular Portal, the video game Portal, short film, fan film. And it was fantastic. So I was excited when he got the Cloverfield job. And he hasn't really done much other than a couple of The Boys episodes. He's a producer on The Boys.
Heck yeah.
And he's done a couple of their episodes. So when they said Dan Trachtenberg was directing this thing, I knew instantly that it would not be another The Predator scenario. Now, I don't think I knew the Native American Comanche aspect. I just knew it was him. That's all I needed. So how does that make you feel knowing that knowledge?
Well, 10 Cloverfield Lane is far and away the best Cloverfield movie.
100%.
So I really like that. But it makes me feel fine. Now, do you have any fandom of the original Predator with Arnold?
I like it a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It's not a movie that I like grew up on watching. I've only seen it like in my recent adult life, but I do rather enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, for what it is. I mean, it's not a film. Okay, it's not that, but it's a fun movie.
I think it's a classic. I mean, I don't think it's as good as the original Alien or Aliens for sure, but I understand why it became what it became, if that's your starting point, 100%.
Yeah, plus Carl Weathers,
Yeah.
okay, and Arnold, like,
Yeah.
shaking hands with their bulging biceps.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Iconic. So the other thing that was weird leading up to this is that it kind of quietly came out on Hulu. I never understood that because it was one of those things where, like, I just didn't believe that it was bad. So I just kind of thought it was like a COVID casualty. I was like, well, no, they could release this in theaters if they wanted. So I still to this day don't get the Hulu thing. I haven't even like read any literature as to why they decided to do that, but I don't know if it's because of how poorly the last one was received, and they just, I have no clue why it's on Hulu. But I am happy because I'm pretty sure it's like the first thing that I've gotten to watch because I live on the West Coast at 9 p.m. Like, I didn't know because Netflix doesn't do it like that. Netflix puts out stuff at my midnight and your 3 a.m., but Hulu did it the proper way, which is midnight your time, 9 o'clock my time. So I got to watch it last night, and I love that. I mean, that doesn't happen unless you're like watching a Marvel show on Disney Plus. So
yeah, speaking of Disney Plus,
go ahead.
So this movie is Hulu in America, but it's Disney Plus everywhere else.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that's so strange to me that this movie would belong on Disney Plus? Weird.
It is weird, but I think international Disney Plus is different because they have like another coupling of like, it's not Stars, but it's called like Star. And it's like, I don't know I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or whatever, but it's like basically a movie channel that they have. Like, do you remember when Netflix had that thing with Stars and you could just see a bunch of Stars movies? It was like early Netflix.
Maybe.
I mean, it was kind of like, it's kind of like that. So I think international Disney Plus is a little bit different than what we have. So I think technically it's probably on like that Star movie network or whatever.
Gotcha.
But anyway, but technically it is a Fox film, which is owned by Disney. So that's how we get there. But of course the content, and I think your point is that it's Predator. So listen, I had been hearing up until this point that it was arguably the best Predator movie in existence. Some people don't go that far, but say it's definitely the best sequel. I think I am in that camp. last night I had an absolute blast watching this thing at home by myself with my Buffalo Wild Wings. How did you take it this morning when you watched it?
So we get into the movie, and so this I'm going to let my ignorance show, which is fun for you. So Lulu and I put it on, and immediately I'm like, okay, where are they? Is this Earth? Is this like, obviously these are Native Americans, American Indians, whatever you want to call them. And then the whole premise in the beginning is like, you should be cooking and cleaning. And I'm like, oh, no, the girl's definitely not going to die because
This
you
is
know how
America.
culture is now.
Oh, this is America. I know right where I am.
Yeah. So 2022, there's no way that this woman, like, I thought it was a little pandering, like in the beginning. So I turned to Lulu and I'm like, don't you think this is pandering? This is like, oh, you can't be strong. You're a woman. You're not supposed to hunt. You're a woman. Like, they could have done away with that and just made her like, a kick butt, like, warrior.
No.
And they didn't have to explain it because it's a movie.
Right.
But soon that, like, criticism went away. I just thought this was incredible. And I thought they did such a good job with like the hero's arc with this character, whatever. Yeah, it's a little pandering-y, but I loved that, like, you know, when she's fighting the mountain lion in the beginning, which they just kept calling a lion, so I was very taken aback when I actually saw the thing. But I thought, you know, oh, she couldn't kill it. You know, the guy had to go and do it. Like, this is all, like, I see what they're doing. Right? They're trying to make it seem like, you know, it's the whole, like, Battle Angel Alita or, like, any of the female, like, the moment in Marvel when they're like, it's our time, and all the female characters go and kick butt or whatever.
I also took it as like a coming of age thing. I was under the impression that she just also wasn't as old as all. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just assumed that because she
I think that's you projecting.
Well, no, it was because they were talking. They were talking about that she was ready to take this test that they had all taken. Now, granted, it still works if it's like, oh, they've been doubting her the whole time, so she hasn't. But I also took it as these were all older people, and that she needed to take this next step and take this test, and then that's what they were doubting.
Yeah. So then, like, just to reiterate, I was wrong. I think that this character was awesome. And I loved to watch them. Like, yeah, there were a few pandering moments, but for the most part, like, because then Lulu, because I'm complaining to my wife, and she goes, you wouldn't say anything if this was a guy. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. But that's the thing. I think Hollywood is trying to do what Hollywood does and be like, you know, we're hearing the same story. They're just from a female's perspective, and they're trying to make it seem like that's so big and different. And she was like, they do the same thing with men. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I'm wrong. This was my, like, you know, stupid reaction early in the morning. But yeah, I thought they handled it well. It's absolutely the best Predator movie by far. Now, other than the original, they didn't have much to go. They didn't have a big hurdle to jump. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Alien versus Predator. I just felt like I loved the way the Predator looked in this movie.
Oh yeah,
I loved the kind of skull thing that they were. I'm so glad they didn't go with, like, the traditional face of the Predator.
Yeah,
you know, I thought they did it very well. I thought the CG for the most part was good. The cinematography was actually great.
Listen, I thought, look, some of the CGI I could, like, there were a couple shots I was like, oh, okay. And
yeah,
I thought about RRR because there were so many animals, and I was like, well, this is definitely better than RRR, the visual effects, but also the cinematography, because the thing that I didn't talk about in our review, I talked about in the other video, but the thing I forgot to mention in that movie is everything is so lit. Like, there are no shadows anywhere. Everything is just as bright as the other thing in that movie. And that's what this movie was like. Other than the scenes that were obviously at night, everything was so well lit and everything looked gorgeous for the most part. Yeah, I loved it. And I was getting just so excited and so hyped. The Zoom meeting's going to run out, by the way, soon. I'll have to start another one in 5 minutes. But I was getting so hyped during the bear scene. I thought that was so sick, watching that predator beat that bear's ass. It was awesome. That's the best feeling when something awesome is happening that's like rousing when you're just watching a movie at home, because it's not what you ever expect to do when you watch a movie at home. You know, it's like a theater thing. But if a movie at home gets you like all riled up and excitable, moments like that, I was just having a blast watching.
Yeah, I thought the only thing I thought about that bear scene is like the dog takes the bear away while she's like fixing her bow.
Yeah.
I just loved seeing her like overcome things like that and learn from them. But I was like, you're just letting your dog get eaten by this bear? Like, you don't love that dog. And yeah, I thought like when she like hides under the dam, that beaver's dam, and the like bear comes and crashes through and then fights the predator or whatever. I thought all that was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, I thought like during those scenes, like Lulu's like looking away because she can't handle it, and I'm just like,
what does that mean? She can't handle what?
She doesn't like violence, she doesn't like violence. Which we're watching the Predator. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But she also she doesn't like blood and guts and gore and stuff. So
gotcha.
But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I had way more fun than I thought I was gonna have, and I actually loved how they used like. I don't know if that guy. I'm not going to say any of the names of any of the characters, just to be safe, because I'm going to like pronounce them terribly.
Okay.
Like, what was the guy? Her brother or boyfriend?
I have no clue. I'm not even sure what I don't know her name. I have no idea.
Yeah, her name is Naru.
Okay.
Amber Midthunder.
Right. And from Legion. Did you know? She's from Legion, yeah.
Yeah, who cares? And then her brother or whatever, or lover, was Tabe.
That's her brother, not her lover.
I don't know. But I did love. So let me tell you the name. So I don't know if you know this, but I starred in this movie. There was a character that when he came up, I immediately looked at Lulu and was like, that's me.
Are you talking about the bear trapper?
Yeah, the big beard guy. Like the guy with the big beard. He was one of the French people.
Yes.
And his name in the movie is Big Beard. And then the guy who's like was helping her out of the cage or whatever, that guy's name in the movie is Waxed Mustache. So I just thought that was a lot of fun to know. Yeah, one of the things I hate in movies is, because I watch everything with subtitles, is when another character speaks a different language and they put the different language in the subtitles. Just tell me what they said. Do you know what I mean? Like, so in this movie, there are French-speaking characters that only speak French, and the subtitles are in French. Like, so I don't know what they're saying. I hate when movies do that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm wondering why they did that. I don't know if that's just because, like, me as an audience member, I don't know what they said either. So are they just leaving you in the dark the way that they left me in the dark?
Yeah,
I didn't watch subtitles, so the movie itself didn't have subtitles. It was the subtitle track that you saw. So I never knew what they were saying because the movie itself didn't have those in there. So I think you watched it with subtitles, they applied it to the characters that I knew what they were saying, but not. So I think it was done purposefully.
Yeah, that's what Lulu said. Lulu's my wife. And I'm like, well, I hate that because I want to know what they said. Now, Lulu speaks a little French, so she actually picked up on some of it. And I was like, no, that's stupid. As an audience, we need to know what they're saying. It doesn't matter if the character knows what they're saying. And she said that maybe they did that so that you would be immersed in the way, like you're experiencing what she experienced. And I'm like, well, that's dumb.
And I don't agree with you. I don't agree with what you just said.
What do you think?
I mean, I think that's a choice.
It's a dumb choice.
If the point of it is to not know what they're saying, why would somebody be able to open a subtitle track and get exactly what they're saying?
If you're French, you know what they're saying.
But sure, I guess so. But that's just the exception. Because think about it, if she is held hostage by a bunch of French bear trappers or whatever, and part of what's scary about it is that she doesn't know what they're saying and what they plan to do with her or whatever. So it cuts to them talking to each other, and then it'll cut back to the main character trying to figure out what's going on, but not really knowing what's going on.
But it's not a super immersive experience.
But
because I'm also not getting pelted with rain when it's raining.
You're going too far, and you're doing your Brando thing. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I'm also not in fear of getting those red dots on me that the Predator is using to track and shoot people.
I think that getting out of this conversation, because it's hell, let's go back to the fun violence and the gore, and how great the Predator looked. So I liked how the movie, it definitely took its own liberties and like made some leaps, and I'm like, come on, like, why are we doing this? But there were definitely other times when I would be like, well, wouldn't the Predator literally just see them sitting in the fields, and a second later the movie would answer for me, and of course he sees them hiding in the wheat fields, and I'm like, yes, perfect, because they don't know what they're up against. I mean, as we started getting closer and more trailers came out, people were like scoffing the movie and saying that it would be terrible, because it's like, how does a Native American girl take down a Predator? And it was like, because it's like primitive versus alien technology, and it's like, guys, that's the whole point of the movie. Like,
right.
You're asking that question because that's the question they want us to ask, but you're judging it like those are the stakes, guys. That's exactly what you're going in to find out.
That's why they made it.
So people were like, they were acting like the filmmakers didn't think of that. Like it wasn't obviously, that's what's interesting about this movie. We got to figure out why this woman in the 18th century is going to take out a predator. And so, like, that was the most fun part. Now, she's very smart, but the fact that she instantly realized that those flowers make your blood cold for the animal that sees thermal, like, those are leaps, but it's okay.
Sure.
Because
it's awesome.
Because nobody at that time knew that a snake saw like that, let alone a predator. So, I mean, that was a leap, but I'm willing to go with it, and it's, it's not going to ruin my experience.
Are you like me in that I'll judge on the like lighter side. Let's say 85% of this movie, I'm rooting for that predator. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to see that. Every time that predator kills someone, I'm like, yeah.
I definitely think that way when we haven't sifted through all the nobodies yet. So when it's her and all the guys, and they're like, treading through the forest, I mean, that's kind of when I'm like, oh, I want to see the predator take all these people down. And then it flips once the stakes raise and I'm ready. I want to see how she does it. So I definitely feel that way in certain moments, for sure.
No, there were even moments with her where I'm like, get her, like, kill her. And then like at the end, the whole like how she ends up killing the predator. Spoilers. Just right. Incredible. And, like, really thought out, like when she's in the bog of stench or whatever it is, the quicksand where Atreyu died. I was like, I'm definitely rooting for that character. That character is awesome. However, still, 75% of the movie, I'm like, I don't care. Like, if in the last scene of the movie, if the predator would have, like, crunched her skull, I would have still been like, yeah, this movie rules. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like... I was really rooting for that character, Naru, and, like, I thought, again, I want to reiterate, I was wrong in my initial, like, oh, this is just going to be like a I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar movie, which, number one, the fact that I even think some movies are like that is a problem with me, not movies. But except for that Marvel scene is just pandering. It's not the female aspect that I have a problem with. It's pandering that I have a problem with. I have a problem when they do it to guys too. Like Vin Diesel is the only reason he acts is because of pandering, because he's terrible. But I think this movie did a really good job of making you root for this character, and at the end when she gets to be the war chief or whatever, like so satisfying, so earned. Like people trust her now. And then when her brother or lover, you say brother, whatever, when he says like, I only killed that lion because you wounded it and like I used your tactics, blah, blah, blah. You always saw more than me. It was like, heck yeah, like screw you guys, see? But yeah, I had way more fun than I thought I would once I realized it was a Predator movie. And I still, I'm with you. I don't know why this didn't get a theatrical release, because it's obviously better than just straight to DVD, straight to streaming service kind of movie.
Right.
Had a great time with it. Might be like top 10 movies I've seen this year.
Yeah. Like
new movies. Yeah, had a great time.
I agree 100%. I think right now it's in my top 10. I like that it's probably the best streamer that I've watched this year, for sure, no doubt. And I love, again, Dan Trachtenberg, and I just feel like this is what we point to, and we're like, just do this with blockbusters. Like, don't make it it's repetitive by design, the way that horror movies and like any by design, Halloween or Michael Myers, all those are the same thing by design. But give us a new angle, make it look good. Actually, make us feel like you put some thought into it. I think they just did all that. So everything that we ask for, if we might as well reboot or revisit old franchises, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's formulaic in the way that like the movie Fresh, or was it Fresh, the meat movie with the Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan, which yummy.
Another great Hulu movie.
Oh, it did that go straight to Hulu?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the most fun I had watching a movie this year, for sure.
Yes.
And then we just watched The Black Phone, and there are moments that are totally good moments, totally overshadowed by the pitfalls of that movie, like the plot holes, it's just not done well. But it's so both of those movies are formulaic, like Prey is formulaic, but Prey was done equally as good as Fresh and way better than movies like The Black Phone, which did get a theatrical release.
Right.
If this movie was done by A24, it may have gotten a theatrical release.
And also it runs the risk of pissing me off.
A24 movies?
Well, no, A24 horror in particular.
Yeah. If what's his name, Owen, has anything to do with it?
Owen.
Like, isn't that the guy's name, Owen Patel or something like that? The dude who made Saw, what's his name?
James Wan?
No, not James Wan. There's another guy who he may have written it. It doesn't matter.
I have no clue who you're talking about.
Okay, maybe I'm making up names. Owen Patel.
Oh, are you talking about Leigh Whannell, who directed The Invisible Man?
Yeah. Leigh Whannell. That movie was good.
The Invisible Man?
Yeah, I liked it.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, good.
Fantastic. Yeah,
I do think we're gonna have to name this review Prey and RRR, or Prey India, or because dude, the amount of like hate and comments that we've gotten on that RRR review are fascinating and amazing. India showed up to shut us down. I'm going to title this Prey and how it's exactly like RRR, even though that was like literally 1 minute of our discussion. That's right. 1,000%. Let's go.
Yes. Speaking of that, I think the plan for us next week, for you and I, is to watch Bahubali Part 1.
Okay.
And So that's on Netflix right now, and that's thanks to you all for recommending that title. I'm going to be watching and reviewing the movie Bodies, Bodies, Bodies as well. I already know the answer to this question, but have you looked at the Watch Diary calendar lately?
No.
There's only like in the next like 2 months, there are like 2 movies. So we're going to be doing a lot of home video watching.
Heck yeah.
You and I. So I'm excited for that. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Bahubali Part 1 should be next week, guys. And then a ton of rewatches, a ton of never before scenes we have planned. And I am looking forward to it. And yeah, the end of the year will be here before you know it. You going to do a top 10 2022 movies with me?
Sure.
Seriously.
But here's the thing, because I'm not really a movies guy. I love movies.
Exactly.
I will have movies there that were made in 2019 that I didn't know, in 2020 that I didn't know.
No, absolutely not.
All right. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to file out. Brando, where can they find you online?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Brando Big Mouth.
And guys, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. I'm missing something. At Letterboxd, I already said that. At Rewatch
WhatsApp.
Ryan. And WhatsApp at Rewatch Ryan. And I'll see you next time. I had nothing else.
Love you.
I love you too.